My name is Jamie. I currently live with my husband Rob. When we first got married, I never thought this would happen. I live in a two-story house with many rooms in it. I live there with my husband, Rob. Big Rob. We got married and lived together. But about 3 months into our honeymoon, my in-laws came to our house.
I want to invite my parents here where we are living now. Your parents are dead, but mine are still alive, and I want to reassure them that we are doing well.
I nodded my head in agreement. My parents had already passed away before I married Rob. My father died in a tragic accident when I was in high school, and my mother, who had worked hard every day to earn money for my college, tuition and other expenses, collapsed and was rushed to the hospital where she died after a long period of overworking. After that, I worked hard and became independent so that my parents would not worry. Then I met Rob, who would later become my husband, at a blind date arranged by a friend from college. If I were to get married, I would like it to be with someone who also cares about their parents.
How impressive. He really loves his parents.
He shed tears when he heard that both of my parents had passed away. I had never met someone who sympathized with me so much, so I thought I could have a good family with him. At Options, I had lost my parents early, and I knew that I would regret it if I did not take care of my husband's parents while I could. So I thought I could express my filial piety to his parents with him. I was willing to be filial to the parents of the person I love. But they trampled on my pure feelings without mercy. It was a week after Rob had asked me to show the house to his parents, and I agreed. Rob's parents then came to our house.
Oh my, the inside of the house is quite old.
My mother-in-law looked inside the house and rubbed her chin. It is true that this house has been built a long time ago. But when Rob's father heard that, he said, "Isn't it? I have been thinking about how shabby this house is too. I guess you're right, Mom."
You're planning to live in a house for a long time. Wouldn't it be better to buy a new one? But why didn't you do that?
Rob glanced at me, then at you. I was about to open my mouth to explain, but Rob interrupted me and said, I knew I had to say something, but when I was about to open my mouth, Rob slapped me on the back and said, "Well, me and Jamie are doing fine, Mom. There is nothing for you to worry about." He said, and proudly. My in-laws looked at him and me alternately with anxious eyes, which made me anxious too. My in-laws had plans to visit the theater nearby, so they looked around the house and quickly left. I couldn't correct what Rob had said, so I left them in a state of bewilderment. I had no idea that my in-laws' misunderstanding would later come back to haunt me. But the signs were there.
You know, Jamie, as someone who's been married for a long time, let me tell you this: don't expect your husband to do whatever you want. You are an adult and a wife now. You miss your parents. They weren't around to spoil you, didn't you? But that's not the same thing. Wives shouldn't be spoiled.
When I saw these summons piling up in my messages after work, my head was spinning. I sighed because I didn't expect her to say such a thing, but I know why. It is because when Rob invited my in-laws to our house, he said something to them that could be taken as my selfishness for living in this house. I think he interrupted me on purpose when I tried to correct him. Because after they left, when I told him that he should correct what he'd said to his mother and father about my selfishness in living in this house, he wrinkled his brow and said, "Well, why don't you just go ahead and do it?"
Ed and Marty agree with me. It's nothing for you to worry about. Urson, if you suddenly said something different from what I said, they're so confused that they wouldn't be able to eat their meals.
I don't think my telling them that what Rob said was wrong would make them lose their appetite. That's because when I met them for the first time, they were scrumptiously eating their food, even when I was talking about my parents passing. It is impossible for them to lose their appetite over something as trivial as this. But I didn't want anything to happen to them, so I decided to keep quiet. That said, Rob had asked me to. I would not be living in this house with them, and I thought that the only time I would be involved with my parents-in-law would be during Thanksgiving and New Year's. I was not sure if I would be able to keep my mouth shut about it. I didn't expect to get a sermon from my mother-in-law on my phone.
Hey Rob, I've been getting a lot of messages like this from your mother.
I saw the notification and didn't respond, but went home and showed Rob the messages. Rob was surprised and his eyes widened, not expecting my mother-in-law to contact me like this. Okay. Told you not to say anything. I will talk to my mother. He immediately called my mother-in-law on the spot, but Rob was always doing things that are not good for me. He called my mother-in-law on the phone and said, "Mom, please don't send Jamie strange messages. I will get in trouble with Jamie." I only showed him the messages from his mother. I didn't say I was mad. This would make my in-laws think I was being unreasonable. But they are the ones who would send me a sermon the next day, even if they had only heard Rob's words. Even if Rob didn't say it like that, they could still see me in a bad light just because I wanted them to refrain from sending me such messages. I have given up on everything. I thought that I would be with him to help provide for my in-laws, but that feeling was shattered as soon as we got married.
Rob told me you're always at home. Me and Elaine are going to the theater over there this evening, so I'm gonna stay at your house until then. As a housewife, you should know better, shouldn't you?
It's true that I work at home. Rob knows that, so why is my mother-in-law getting the wrong information from Rob? I'm starting to lose faith in Rob. He has been trying to make me look bad to my in-laws. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but now I'm convinced that it must be really strange. You could say I'm sure of it. For all I know, Rob is trying to make things worse between me and my in-laws, but I don't know why he thinks that. He has been and continues to be a disappointment to me. Just when I had forgotten about Rob, the intercom rings. Sure enough, I see my mother-in-law and sister-in-law Elaine on the monitor. I invited them in, thinking that maybe Elaine, who is young, would understand my work-from-home business and tell my mother-in-law about it.
Maze, I told you my message. I work from home. I can't entertain you both while I'm at work.
Liam replied, and Elaine immediately sat down on the sofa with a sullen look on her face. "We don't have Coke in our house," I said. Elaine sighed and said, "Well then, just serve me a juice. Whatever it is, you are living on my brother's money, so why don't you at least entertain us, his family? You are our servant," she said, glaring at me. I looked at my sister-in-law, Elaine. I thought she might listen to me. but she was playing an app on her phone, not looking at me at all. I don't know what Rob told you, but I'm not living on Rob's money. I'm doing my job. You're interrupting my work. I knew that if I didn't speak up, they would only look down on me and be overbearing. So I grabbed Elaine's arm, made her stand up, and led her to the door. Hey, I'm Rob's sister. How dare you not treat me well and then throw me out of the house? After Elaine, I also kicked my mother-in-law out of the house, and she turned red in the face and said, I went to all the trouble welcoming a poor woman like you. How dare you, she glared at me.
Even I can't live without Rob, so you're the ones who've been deceived by Rob's lies and treat him like a servant. You idiots!
Aita said, and slammed the front door firmly. Both Elaine and my mother-in-law were screaming at the door for a while, but I ignored them, and before I knew it, they were gone. I don't have to worry about them because I know the neighbors will be more on my side than Rob's, no matter how much noise they make. Then Rob came home that day and told me what my mother-in-law and Elaine had said to him. I can't be with someone who neglects my family. If this happens again, I will divorce you immediately. So write your name down.
I can't be with someone who neglects my family. If this happens again, I will divorce you immediately.
He handed me the divorce papers with his name on them. It was something I had never wished for. But then, I've gotten to the point where I want to get rid of my husband who is always telling false stories about me to his family and undermining my status. I quickly signed the divorce papers. I put the filled-out divorce papers away in the back of the cabinet, but I retrieved them during the night and kept them with me. At the next day, I left for a meeting and came home to find the house deserted. My room was untouched, but the documents and computer in my workroom were gone. As I rushed to call Rob, I was interrupted by a call from my mother-in-law.
Hello, Jamie. Me, my husband Rob, and Elaine are in a condominium. You're a do-nothing, so you should get down on your knees, apologize to us, and be our servant. I won't tell you where we live until you get a real job. You better take this opportunity to realize how helpless you are. Ha ha ha.
I felt something snap in my head. I hung up the phone and immediately called Rob.
Mom told me that's what's going on, so you need to apologize to us first.
I'll file for divorce, and if you don't return my things that you stole from me today, I'll file a police report, and the furniture in the house was originally stuff that I bought, right? I'll file a report on that, too. Once we get past the day you're out, I will make you all be treated like criminals.
Actually, I hung up the phone. Then I quickly took the divorce papers to the municipal office to prevent them from being revoked without my permission while I was sitting in a coffee shop drinking coffee, reading a novel to calm down. While I was sitting in a coffee shop, drinking coffee and reading a novel to calm down, I discovered that my belongings and furniture had been put back while I was away. When I returned home, Rob was there helping the contractor move the last of my belongings. I started up my computer, which is what I use for work.
What the hell do you want with my computer? You know that if you had deleted any work-related data, my company would have filed a huge lawsuit against you and your family.
I asked Rob, and he admitted in a cold sweat. My sister wants a new computer, and we thought that the one you're using was a good one. I checked the contents of the computer in amazement.
good for you, because if you had deleted any work-related data, my company would have filed a huge lawsuit against you and your family.
He turned pale. I glared at him.
I see you've moved to a townhouse. Where the hell did the money come from? You told me you couldn't afford the rent and living expenses because you owed $20,000 and wanted to pay it off. You moved into this house that I inherited from my parents so that I could take care of you while you paid off your debt. Where the hell did you get all that money?
Actually, I didn't have any debt. My mom and dad wanted to live in a condo, so I was saving up for it.
I sighed heavily.
I will get a lawyer. I make sure I get my half of the money that I've been paying for both our living expenses my entire life. I will also charge you for the money you owed me, because you always told me you did have enough money. He cried, but I'm not just gonna forgive him just because he cried.
He's in the meeting with the lawyer. He agreed to pay me a lot of money to keep me from spreading the fact that he had lied to me. He said they moved to a townhouse, but they can't continue to live there. When they lost all their money at once, he used up his paid vacation every time he was called by my lawyer because our discussion got bogged down. And when his boss asked him, "Why on earth do you also want to take time off so badly?" he told him that he had a meeting with my lawyer and me. His boss called me and told me that it was disgusting that I could get alimony for cheating on Rob. I asked him, "Is Rob lying again?" I sighed and gave him my name and told him to look me up on the internet. His boss apologized to me. Well, of course he would. I kindly told them what Rob had done. I'm sure that the only reason why Rob speaks ill of me to people around him is because his pride could not stand the fact that he has a wife who makes great money than he does. I am sure that the only reason why Rob speaks ill of me to people around him is because his pride cannot stand the fact that he has a wife who makes more money than he does. But I don't want my merits to be used to spread false and bad rumors about me. I firmly told his boss to correct it. Well, my company and the company Rob works for do business with each other, so he couldn't say no to me. Because of this, Rob's salary was cut drastically for being disrespectful to my company, got demoted, and as a result, he can no longer pay the rent for his apartment. Rob finally told the truth to his family when he realized that he would not be able to make a living. Later that day, my mother-in-law called me incessantly. I looked at my phone and found that I already had 47 missed calls. She's so persistent. I'm working right now, I've told her so many times, but she just doesn't get it. I sighed and quickly blocked my mother-in-law's phone number. The next day, my in-laws and Elaine came to my door.
Rob is sorry. Please stop making things harder for him.
I didn't know my brother didn't make that much money. He always seemed like he was so rich. You can live with us in this house if you want.
I opened the upstairs window and picked up my phone.
Hello, is this the police? There are 3 suspicious people making a racket in front of my house right now.
They went away very quickly. Rob's parents had already quit their jobs thinking that their son would support them, and Elaine was unemployed after she was fired for her bad attitude. Because of this, the 4 of them moved up east of the condo, and now they are living in a 1-bedroom apartment with not enough room for all of them. So they all blame him, saying, "It's your fault." However, after a few months, Rob couldn't stand such a life anymore and ran away, and was fired from his job after repeatedly missing work without prior notice. I heard that all three of them are now homeless after being kicked out of their apartment, but I do not know the details. I'm still living in the house my parents left me, but I'm thinking of moving to an apartment for one person, maybe a condo or something like that.